By 2030, it is projected that we are going to see 24 million cases of cancer diagnosis worldwide. This is a growing global crisis, and to combat that, USA, Russia, and the UK have essentially created a cancer vaccine, or they're in the process of creating that to combat this growing crisis.
We're seeing, and talking to my colleagues kind of across Canada, we're seeing that more patients are routinely being diagnosed with cancer through the emergency room. So whether it's incidental or they've come in with symptoms that may point to a cancer diagnosis, we are seeing that. And it's not just locally, but we're seeing it more broadly. We're not sure what's driving this. It's probably multifactorial, but we have to think about the current issues with our current healthcare system. We know many patients don't have access to a primary care physician, or there's long wait times to access, say, imaging or specialist support that you need for the cancer diagnosis. So patients may be waiting for that imaging, or may not have a family doctor, and their cancer has now progressed to a point where they need urgent medical attention, so they come to the emergency department.
You can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours.
This is a women's health channel, so we're going to talk about women's health cancers. So we're going to focus on ovarian cancer, breast cancer, and there's also melanoma, the vaccine that's being created for that as well. So we're going to talk about those 3 types of cancers in this video. So now, whether you're pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine, I think that everyone, regardless of which side you fall on, should be aware and have some information about what's going on, because the growing number of cancer diagnosis is scary. Cancer is scary altogether. The fact that it's increasing at this type of rate is a very big deal. Now, in this video, we're going to tackle what does this mean for the future of medicine? As in, okay, like, are we really going to find a cure, or a cure for cancer? Are we going to get ahead of cancer? Are we going to limit how quickly cancer grows? Are people going to live now for a longer time, with cancer? Are they able to kind of go into remission? This is all a big, big deal. And then we're also going to tackle, what does this really mean for everyday consumer? So with the COVID vaccine, when that first happened, everybody was very skeptical. A lot of people, even if they weren't ever anti-vaccine, they were kind of, what's going on? So that raised a lot of distrust in the healthcare system. So we're also going to talk about that as well in this video.
Russia has claimed to achieve a significant advancement in cancer treatment by developing a vaccine aimed at treating cancer patients. If true, this would be the biggest medical breakthrough of 2024 or even the last decade. The announcement said that Russia has developed its own mRNA vaccine against cancer, and it will be distributed to patients free of charge.
The key points across these videos were mRNA. So the M stands for messenger. In short, messenger is just like the recipe, the instructions that then is created to tackle or essentially like create a protein, and then your body recognizes that particular protein. So in the event that it comes across of it, it knows how to fight it. So it gives it the instructions of how to fight a particular infection, disease, whatever it may be.
I am so excited. People are finally seeing me for my potential. What do you mean by that? I've got a new type of vaccine. Just got started with a clinical trial. What, for COVID? I thought we had the mRNA vaccines for COVID pretty much covered by now. No, not for COVID. This is a new mRNA vaccine being tested for HIV. Oh, was that safe in animal studies? Yeah, we've got some pretty good preliminary results, but we have to wait to see if it's going to work in people. Neat. Yeah, but that's not even it though. We're also working on an mRNA vaccine for colorectal cancer, influenza, RSV, cytomegalovirus, melanoma.
And so mRNA has been a while for a long time, but it wasn't until the whole COVID situation or the pandemic and then the COVID vaccine that it really was brought into the limelight. Now, this is going to bring back what I talked about before, which is the distrust that is associated with the COVID vaccine, vaccines in general, and the distrust in healthcare, which I'll talk about more in the rest of the video. I'm calling this a race to create a cancer vaccine because essentially this feels like a race to me. I feel like these countries, so USA, UK, and Russia, they're all competing because a race is a competition to create a cancer vaccine. Now, with the recent press conference that happened, I think that because with the projection of cancer rates getting higher and higher in the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of companies or companies within countries, I think that they're working very hard to create a cancer vaccine. So are they doing this out of the goodness of their heart? I'm sure they are, but is there also a profit to it as well? Yes, there is a profit to it as well. My thing is with creating a cancer vaccine, whoever does it first, they have to do it right and the best, because with public judgment, a lot of people are very skeptical of vaccines. This really got higher with COVID. So a lot of people were very skeptical of the vaccine. Now you're saying that there's a cancer vaccine. A lot of people are like, okay, what does this mean? So the first people to create that vaccine, it has to be like, honestly, damn near perfect. And nothing's ever perfect, but as close to perfect as possible, because those coming behind that, let's say the first person who creates the vaccine sucks, or there's major side effects, or there's a lot of issues. Now you're setting back the entire industry 20, 30 years, because now people are gonna be like, okay, why would I trust you, right? Why would I even take this if this is the outcome? And now the person coming behind that, let's say the second person to create a vaccine or a cancer vaccine, now let's say there's actually really, really good. They just weren't the first one to make it, but they were actually really good. Now they're gonna have a harder time getting people who really do need the vaccine.
It is still in the very early stages, but there's a lot of excitement in the medical community about this study. Phase 1 of the trial found that the experimental vaccine safely generated anti-tumor immunity. Now that suggests that a vaccine could be used to prevent or treat an aggressive form of breast cancer.
This is really encouraging that we see good safety from and long-term safety from this phase 1 trial.
Dr. Danae Hamuda is an associate professor at the University of Toledo and an oncologist at UTMC.
Most of these patients who had the vaccine did get a pretty robust T-cell activation, so their immune system was turned on from it and pretty tolerable in this phase 1 trial. So they've moved on to phase 2 to look at efficacy now, so we're really excited to see some of that too.
The research is focused on a specific kind of breast cancer.
HER2-positive breast cancer is about 20% of all breast cancers that are diagnosed. This type of breast cancer is a more aggressive subtype of breast cancer. It can grow more rapidly and present with a more advanced disease.
The experimental DNA vaccine was shown to safely generate anti-tumor immunity.
And this acts like a red flag for the immune system, and it tells your immune system, hey, this is a signal that we don't want in our body, and start to expand and kind of build this army to target against that signal.
And it could eventually be used to help fight other cancers.
And if that's useful in this HER2 space, showing this HER2 signal to our immune system, maybe that'll translate to other types of cancer that also have a signal that we can then make vaccines against and utilize that same principle.
Dr. Hamuda has devoted her life to helping people win the fight against cancer, and these findings could eventually help more people do just that.
It's really, really gratifying to see each of these steps forward that we continue to make. And we have a long way to go, which is why it's really important to do a lot of these early phase trials to find signals of things that seem to work and push them forward so that we can keep helping our patients live longer.
Now, as you heard, phase 2 focuses on efficacy of the vaccine. If those results are positive, the study will move on to the final phase. Now, even though it may be years out, researchers working on the trial say they have high hopes that we are close to having a vaccine that can effectively treat patients with breast cancer.
The cancer vaccine that I've seen that's happening in America is a breast cancer vaccine or a trial that's being emerged, and I think one in like Pennsylvania, and like across the United States. And this one is focusing on women who are at a higher risk of getting breast cancer. And so they're looking at the study for a genetic mutation known as a BRACA gene, so BRCA1 and BRCA2. And if for people who have that gene mutation, they are at an increased risk for getting ovarian cancer, breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, just so many types of cancers. And so the study just focuses on those who are at an increased risk. And with the vaccine, it's gonna give it to those who are more prone to getting those type of cancers. And so it looks like for that vaccine, it's not given to any and everybody. I think in the future, they likely want to give it to people to prevent them getting, cancer. For people at an increased risk for getting those cancers altogether, that vaccine, the breast cancer vaccine, is going to help them because of that gene mutation. Some people just right off the bat will say, you know what, I want to remove all my breasts. I want to have a double mastectomy. And on top of that, some people say, I want to remove my ovaries as well, and they'll end up freezing their eggs. And a lot of these things are costly, and a lot of people don't want to do it, but they feel like they're forced to do it because of that gene mutation. Now, with the vaccine, can really give women the option to, if they still want to do that, they can, or they can take the vaccine to then prevent them from, getting breast cancer. The next GYN cancer vaccine that's emerging is coming from the United Kingdom, and it's called Ovarian Vax. And this one is looking for cancer cells to detect early potential signs of ovarian cancer, which then you can prevent it from leading to full-blown cancer. Ovarian cancer is a very deadly disease. It is horrible, and it's known as being kind of a silent killer, meaning that a lot of people don't recognize the symptoms because the symptoms mimic a lot of things. So a lot of the symptoms are you have bloating, you have change in your periods, you have pelvic pain, and those three things that I just listed could literally be anything else, right? And so a lot of times it gets missed because then by the time it's in like stage 4 of cancer, it has done so much damage. And so with this research that they're looking at in the United Kingdom, it looks for ovarian cancer vaccine that can potentially detect ovarian cancer and then stop it in its tracks so it doesn't, progressively get worse in the stages. As of right now, of course, looking at that BRCA1, BRCA2 gene, those people are at the higher risk of developing ovarian cancer, just like we talked about with, breast cancer. But of course, in the future, hopefully that it can help people, women all across so that they can prevent themselves from getting full-blown cancer. And so I'll show you guys right here. It says ovarian cancer is up to 65% higher in women with altered BRCA1 gene and up to 35% higher in women with altered BRCA2 gene compared to women without these gene alterations. So yes, this means that if you have that gene, your number is like 65% higher. So BRCA1, 65% higher of getting ovarian cancer, and that is so scary, which then, like it says, it leads women to then saying, oh my gosh, let me just get ahead of this, right? Let me remove my body part before it even becomes something. And sometimes it can, and sometimes it cannot. So the vaccine, hopefully, right, fingers crossed, if it is successful, it can change the decision making for women. So now the woman has more options rather than having to just remove an organ and, because, right, if you remove something, well, it's not going to bother you because it's not there anymore, right? But now this gives you more options to say, well, what do I want to do? Do I really want to remove it because I can? Or do I want to take a chance on this vaccine and also, help myself as well? Next one is going to be about skin cancer vaccine or melanoma vaccine. And this looks like it's coming from Russia, that they actually have developed a vaccine and they're going to distribute the vaccine to people free of charge.
Preliminary clinical trials have shown promising results, with the vaccine effectively halting tumor growth and preventing metastasis. This significant advancement comes as Russia faces rising cancer rates, with over 635,000 new cases reported last year alone. President Vladimir Putin had hinted at this development earlier this year, emphasizing the country's commitment to creating innovative cancer treatments. Use of artificial intelligence in the vaccine's development has expedited the process, allowing for personalized vaccines to be created in under an hour.
Really good because skin cancer is super deadly and it can be very aggressive because your skin is the largest organ that you have in your body. It's literally from your head to your feet. And for having cancer on the skin, think about it, it's like a highway. It can just transport super fast to the rest of your body. And so with Russia essentially having that vaccine, and they're going to give it to people who have, skin cancer. Now, since COVID, there has been a growing distrust of vaccines. And honestly, I think I can see both sides. I can see the healthcare side, and I can also see just an everyday person side who does not work in healthcare. And with the growing distrust, it's likely due to what people felt as if they were like being forced that they can't enjoy their lives unless they get vaccinated, or a lot of people lost their jobs because they were vaccinated. The racial history that comes with vaccines, or certain diseases within certain communities, for example, the African American community, with a lot of them just not trusting healthcare altogether, which in the past, the history has shown the just mistreatment of them altogether.
Here feel the way she does.
I'm reluctant to take the vaccine.
Wait, you yourself are reluctant to take
I am reluctant.
Most of those who live in Hobson City are African American. Distrust of the medical community runs deep. The town, located about 100 miles from Tuskegee, Alabama, home to one of the darkest chapters in American medical history. In the 1930s, government doctors conducted experiments on black men, leaving them untreated for syphilis until the 1970s, so doctors could monitor how it affected them. Alabama is taking a beating from the coronavirus, the state's 14-day positivity rate at just over 29%. In Calhoun County, where Hobson City sits, the rate is 37%. Still, older residents such as Joe Cunningham have such little faith in doctors, he was reluctant to go in for a COVID-19 test, and any discussion about a vaccine is off the table.
I was afraid to take the test.
Why not, Mr. Cunningham?
I don't know. I just don't understand it. I'd like to know where it's coming from.
I'm going to have to convince my father because he don't know what this vaccine is about. But as black people, that's all we know is to trust the Lord.
And so I can definitely see both sides, right? And so now, let's say when there is a cancer vaccine that has emerged, are people going to respond well to it? I really don't know, which is why I feel like these companies or these organizations or whatever, they're going at it for people who are already confirmed with the diagnosis, so they're not going to use it as a prevention, because with vaccines, when you think of vaccines, you think of prevention, right? Let me take this vaccine so I can prevent getting something, or I can prevent whatever. With these companies, I think they're going to start off with people who are confirmed to have it, who are either in that first stage or people who are in the later stages. I feel like they're more prone to being accepting of a vaccine because they feel that, okay, well, I might as well give it a try, right? You guys have tried everything possible. Let me try this vaccine and see if it works for me. I think it's going to be harder to get people who have not been confirmed, right, with a cancer diagnosis, because then if they take the vaccine and they've never had a cancer diagnosis, then let's say down the line they develop a cancer diagnosis, then could you really argue, you probably could, that, hey, I took this cancer vaccine to prevent me from getting a specific type of cancer, and now here I am having this cancer. Right? You got to see both sides. So I can definitely see the approach now down the line is that's going to be for people who have confirmed a cancer diagnosis. And then as time goes on and people become more understanding of vaccines, then I feel like everybody is going to say, okay, I would take this for people who are at a higher risk of developing cancers, which is, like I talked about before, it's that BRACA1, BRACA2 gene, who don't have the cancer yet, but they're at a higher risk of developing it. And I think they're going to be more open to then taking that vaccine. And then for everybody else, I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. For people who don't really have the risk factors for that, I don't think a lot of people are going to be accepting of it unless it's like been out for maybe 20, 25, 30 years. In my opinion, that's kind of my projection. Okay, everyone, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys like this video. So just to kind of wrap up, and would you guys ever take a cancer vaccine if it was offered to you? How do you feel about the cancer vaccine? How do you feel about everything altogether that we talked about in this video? And also, I'm very curious that with everything kind of developing, especially with the cancer rates being projected to be extremely high, so 24 million cases by 2030, how do you feel about that? Plus, the uprising of cancer vaccines that are being developed. Because like I talked about in that video about HPV and HIV, the potential or future epidemic, I hate if things happen where there's a whole crisis that then speeds up everything.
The disease that defined our lives in 2020.
2020 is now the deadliest year in U.S. history.
Since late March, the U.S. has led the world with the most cases and the most deaths, now at more than 334,000. What began as a faraway outbreak in China.
There is growing concern at this hour over a possible outbreak of a mystery virus.
Whenever we hear this is new, we haven't seen this before, we have no history on this pathogen, hairs stand on edge.
Tonight, authorities confirm it is being spread from human to human.
And all of a sudden we develop a vaccine or we develop a drug or we develop something. I personally do not like that because I feel like people should not have to, there should not be a lot of deaths for something to be successful. So there shouldn't be a lot of chaos for there to be an advancement of something, but sometimes it feels like there's always chaos and then there's an advancement of something, you know what I mean? And so I don't want that to happen because that's like horrible, because then that's people losing their lives, and then in return there is something successful that comes out of that, which is either a vaccine or a drug, but then it's like, dang, I lost my life, or a family member loses their life, you know what I mean? And I know the world is unfair and there's so many just bad things in the world, but I don't know, that's just my thought process, you know, like I do not want anything severe to just randomly occur for them all of a sudden, or life to just push us these things out there. I want it to be where like, okay, everything is okay, everything is slow and steady, and then, oh my God, look, we developed this vaccine, oh my God, we developed this drug, oh my gosh, yes, we developed this, without in return some major pandemic or major epidemic that occurs. I'll see you guys at the next video, and thank you so much for staying in here. If you're new here, I'm Christy Araba. We talk women's health, we talk healthcare, we have fun, we have conversations, discussions, good times. All right, guys, bye.